A manager's role comes with a great degree of entrustment of time, assets, and expectations of outcomes. Managers need to safeguard this by being transparent, integral, and fully committed, essentially conscientious. Says Mr. Phani Medicharla, the author of the renowned book, The Conscientious Manager. Hello, listeners. Here is Giridhar, and you are listening to the podcast Giridhar's Garady. Today, we have a special guest on the show. He is someone who is an avid writer, storyteller, and poet in the world of technology consulting. Someone who is a keen observer of the day to day workplace interactions and an advocate of experiential learning. He strongly believes that appreciating diversity and inspiring the latent potential in each other with empathy are the only ways to succeed collectively and deliver sustainable value in any profession. Proud to say that I have worked with him for a short span of time and know him as a cheerful and amazing person. An influential person by chance and an inspiring person by choice, here's welcoming the guest for today's episode, Mr. Phani Medicharla. Hi, Phani sir. Welcome to Giridhar's Garady. How are you doing today?
Hi, Giri. This is amazing. Thank you so much for having me here, and hello to all your podcast listeners. I'm doing great.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just one question before we start. How do you feel like being a guest on this podcast?
I feel special, Giri. This is I've done an interview before, but it was more in an offline mode. This is really special, and doing it with someone that I have worked with makes it even more special.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that. I feel privileged at this point. All right. So tell me, sir, what is this book, The Conscientious Manager, all about?
It is a book of stories in its essence, and it is a book that all of us can relate to. All of us in any profession, anybody who is working in a team or working on his own. It is based on reflections and interactions, success stories, failure stories, challenges that I have faced personally and I have seen others face. What I have done is the collective insight and reflections of all these several experiences over the past several years, where I have worked across multiple geographies with multiple customers, interacted with people off work and on work. So this is an amalgamation of all those experiences. But what I have done differently is the way I've tried to explain these conflicts, these dilemmas, these challenges that we face in a workplace by articulating a story, an interesting story that people can relate with, and subsequent to that story, the management update about what am I talking about, what is the moral about, how one should behave, what are the pitfalls, what are the derailers, and what you could do about them to overcome. And I have done this for several roles. So let's say when someone is about to start work as a new joinee, what kind of conflicts and what kind of challenges he or she faces when they're joining work. And this again happens when one is shifting, when one is going from one project to the other, or one profession to the other, or even one geography to the other. And similarly, as you progress in your career, whatever may be the profession, what kind of conflicts you face as you move up in responsibilities, when you start having a team of your own, when you have to interact with multiple people. How do you communicate? How do you encourage? How do you inspire? How do you ensure that the team comes together? So all of these things, all the way from someone who's joining or about to join work, all the way up to when one becomes an executive or a person in power, what kind of challenges they face and how one can go about resolving them. So that's the book all about. And the reason why I say it is a conscientious manager is because these dilemmas come only when you're conscientious, only when you have a conscience, only when you want to do things in the right way. So this book is for all of us who want to do it the right way, who want to succeed by helping others, and who want to enjoy work.
Wow, that's amazing, sir. Actually, having read the book, I can say that the stories are quite relatable for all the people in any role of the corporate environment.
And I have also taken inspiration from people in different professions, Giri. So I have quoted experiences of surgeons. I've quoted experiences from somebody who works in supply chain, who works in retail. So this is not just for somebody who is in the corporate or the software world, but this applies broadly to anybody in a profession who has to interact to make a living, and that is pretty much everybody. And I have also received a great feedback from teachers of renowned schools that they find this extremely appealing, and they want to recommend this to their teachers and their staff and students. So the coverage that the book enjoyed has been quite wide.
Yeah, that's right, sir. Really great to hear that. Okay, so what is a source of motivation or inspiration for you to write this book?
So writing came first. I have been writing for quite some time. It started with poetry, groups of lines thrown together with a rhyming word. That's how it started, which I used to really enjoy. I used to give these short snippets as gifts to my friends on their birthdays, etc. So that's how it developed, and I've been writing for several years now. I have created several blogs, each with a different theme. I have shut them down, and recently, about 4 or 5 years ago, I created a website called Reflecticon, where I have been writing more consistently. And as I started writing these articles, the based on the feedback that I received, what I understood was that people tend to connect easily if the same concept is explained in a story which is in a different perspective. Rather than talking about leadership and talking about an office environment, how do you tell the same concept in a story which is completely unrelatable to them? In the sense, how can I convey the same moral using a potter's story, or or a tribal in a village, or a college professor? So narrating a story which is totally out of your context actually helps you to connect better, and the learning becomes easy. So then I started experimenting with this format, and I have been writing these different posts with story as the foundation. So that's all how it started. And one fine day, I happened to interact in a management training that I've attended. I happened to interact with a professor from a renowned university in the US. And when she looked at some of these pieces, she said that this is amazing, and it actually deserves to be part of a book. So that was the trigger, the encouragement that I received from some key people that I interacted.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so my next question to you, sir. Why do you consider being conscientious an essential quality for managers?
See, without being conscious, so conscientious in simple terms is being honest to yourself and being honest to others. So if somebody in the role of a manager, be it a project manager or a team manager, people manager, somebody in that role who has a responsibility of uh, driving others and making them commit to do work, and asking them to give their resources, be it time or attention, has to be honest. Otherwise, one, you will be extracting work for the wrong reasons. Second, you will be creating a lot of confusion and stress. So being honest, being conscientious is healthy, both for oneself and for the team around. And project managers tend to be in a position where a lot of trust is placed on them. It could be trust from your customer, from your team, from your organization. and living up to that trust is important, and hence conscientious is extremely important. And the third reason is if you are not conscientious, if you are not honest, there is no learning. We can pretend that we are doing something, we can pretend that there is progress, but we know, and the people who we interact with will eventually come to know that there is no progress and there is no learning. So this is a key attribute to be true to oneself, being honest and integral, and facing the situations instead of avoiding them. Usually people tend to avoid conflicts and somehow manage the moment. But a conscientious manager chooses to face it and resolve it. And it may not be that always we resolve it in a comfortable way. There will be discomfort, but there will be at the end of the day a lot of learning from which we can improve upon.
Very well said, sir. Can't agree more than this. I'm sure this will be very helpful for someone who is aspiring to become a manager in future. All right. So what are the ways in which a manager can nurture workplace ethics and synergies?
Very broad question, Giri, and some of the attributes that I have described as chapters. So the book itself is a compilation of 23 chapters, but I believe that the subject is much more broader than what I have written about. So how can a manager nurture ethics? First of all, manager needs to be, like I said, conscientious, learn, and hopefully someone who has learned every day from his or her own experience. One's experience is usually the biggest teacher. And secondly, being sensitive to what is happening around you and learning from each other. That's how you, first of all, build your own moral fabric, by learning from yourself, your own experiences, from your peers, from your team. And once you have done that, once you are in a position that you understand the ethics of a workplace to whatever degree, then what happens is it all comes down to how do you translate it for others? How do you help a team member understand what is right or wrong for that context in a way that he or she can receive it? That's the challenge. So sometimes what I have seen is that managers have this great sense of them being right, but they find it difficult to translate that, and hence there will be a conflict. And then we get into my version of right versus your version of right. So nurturing workplace ethics is not easy. It is a challenge, and the best thing to do is live by example and face every moment. Be there for your team, especially during the difficult times, and help them see how you are yourself adapting to different situations, and be open when there is no solution. I think that is what team appreciates. And asking for help is one more thing, which is an extremely important attribute even for managers, because team is the biggest asset. And when your team sees that you are open to lead, open to change, open to ask help, and open to acknowledge when there is no solution, the ability for them to follow you and walk the path will become much more easier. These are few tips only, Giri, which I have learned, but there are so many ways. Obviously, leading by example, of course, is the best way.
Wow, that's again amazing response, sir. So now that we have understood the background and your thoughts about writing this book, so let's talk more about this book. So can you share with us any of the two stories from your book and the context in which you have used them?
I can talk about first one is an experience, or both these stories I want to share are experiences that I happen to encounter personally. And when I mean experiences, even the story that I'm talking about. So once I was traveling to Amsterdam from Stockholm on a business trip, and I happened to stay in a hotel there in near to the Amsterdam airport. And this experience happened when I was having my breakfast. I happened to overhear a group of coaches talking to each other about a volleyball match that happened the previous day, and their team happened to lose the match. And the interaction was all about how each of the kids performed. They were school children. How each of them performed, and who was playing well with others and who was playing on her own. What was the team dynamics? How should they communicate the failure to the team? How should they tell the team? How should they bring them, inspire them to come back to the playing field again, even though they lost the match? Because I think there was again another match that day. This conversation was happening in the morning. So they lost a match the previous day, and there was another match on the subsequent day. So this was really interesting, and I'm sure there are so many examples of how we can extract the concepts or principles of teamwork and leadership from sports. There are so many movies that have been shot. This was my first-hand exposure when I was listening to these coaches. There was a senior coach and there were two junior coaches. And the senior coach was coaching the other two as to how they should go about, what attributes they should encourage, what attributes they should discourage. And above everything else, how should they tell the team to have fun? It's all about having fun. Winning or losing happens as a side effect. So this was one great experience. So I have based one chapter on this. It's called Volleying Nicely. It's all about teamwork. This is one. And second story is when I was visiting a national forest here in Sweden, and I happened to encounter a very elderly gentleman living in that forest, on the edge of the forest. He was living in his cabin, and he makes a living by taking people. He was a tour guide into the forest trails. So he takes the visitors inside and then explains to them the importance of that national forest, what are the resources there, what kind of flora and fauna, etc. And then he explains about how each bird behaves. He has got a lot of local knowledge of what happens in those surroundings. And then during that trip, so we were also going along with him into the forest. During the trip, he explained a lot about the differences between healthy trees and the trees that break down, trees that don't live long and then they break on their own weight. And it was amazing because I could relate the examples he was giving or the insights he was sharing about trees to leadership. For instance, the impact of forest fire on trees, why forest fire is important. We tend to think that if a fire happens in a forest, then everything burns down, it is bad for the environment and all of that. But it is so important for forests to catch fire naturally, once in a while. It makes the forest even grow stronger. Trees develop special resins to develop tougher barks. And it seems there are certain insects which only thrive if there is fire. So many things which are so relatable. And then he was talking about how a healthy tree attracts a lot of birds and a lot of ecosystem around it versus a weak tree which usually stands lonely and then falls off. So this is another chapter where I could draw a lot of inspiration to articulate themes around leadership and how leaders should grow, how leaders should stand the test of fire, how they should grow along with others. So there's no growth if you're growing alone. So these are two of my favorite chapters, Giri.
It's really quite inspiring, sir, to know that you were able to correlate the normal, ordinary things to the corporate world, and you were able to write the stories in this way and come up with a book.
Correct. Only one correction. This applies to anybody, not just for someone in the corporate world.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you were able to come up with a book by just correlating the ordinary stories, and you were able to figure out something useful, and you were able to, come up with something better, a better message. You were able to extract from the ordinary things. That was quite inspiring, I must say.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So, sir, now let us know, how does this book the conscientious manager connects with every level in the corporate world or any other workplace, like you were saying?
I think if you leave aside the term work, although the book is titled Ethics and Synergies for the Workplace, but if you leave aside work for a minute, the book talks about good qualities of somebody who's interacting in a society. Qualities about, for example, how I should not give up on my passion. There is a story around that, and how I should not get influenced by what others are doing. Today there is this trend of looking at how many certifications my friends are doing, and somehow this fear of losing out, that I am not able to fit in the scheme of things. Others are doing better than me. Instead of looking at things that way, how can one re-evaluate one's own interests and priorities and focus on the right things, and understand what unique contribution that person can bring. So there is a chapter on that. There is a chapter on what does it mean to be loyal, what is loyalty, and why one should be loyal, and what does it mean to walk the extra line. So these attributes, and then there are a couple of chapters on importance of learning and also importance of teaching. How teaching others helps you more than anyone else in learning deeper yourself. Then there are chapters around subtle discrimination. Discrimination happens everywhere, not just in a workplace. We tend to form opinions just by looking at somebody's attire, somebody's talking style. Even if the person is in the same country from a different state, we already start a conversation with some prejudice in mind. So how to avoid such a prejudice? So all these topics are valuable for us as individuals who interact in a society as human beings. Of course, when they are applied in a workplace, they make you that much more better. But from my perspective, I think these can be taken up by anybody. Even the stories can be even read by children, and that was my intent, that I should write a very simple book with simple stories, but with a deep message. But when you overlay this within a working world, in a professional world, the chapters also talk to you about your own journey. Your journey from starting out in a company all the way up to becoming a senior executive. So, for example, if you become, let's say, a group leader or head of a unit, just by having that title, would you get the power and authority, and will teams listen to you automatically, or is there something else? So there's a chapter on that. So this is how the book would speak to you at different times in your personal life or career, Giri.
Awesome, sir. I believe this would have been really challenging for you to write this book by keeping in mind of people at various levels, or I mean, people at any workplace or anything as such.
Correct. So like I said, the challenge was to keep it simple. Usually, management books tend to be very dry. They talk about a lot of strategies and methodologies, frameworks, etc. And my own experience has been that I was not able to fully complete a management book. I start with something, I read a few chapters, and then it starts to feel boring. You tend to get a feeling that you're reading something which you already know, or something which does not apply to you. It is not in your context. The author is speaking something which is very, very far away. So to overcome that and to write something in simple terms, which anyone can read, enjoy more than anything else. And as part of that enjoyment, learning happens as a side effect. So that was the challenge. And to write something like that was the challenge. And it happened over a period of 3 to 4 years with the content that I was creating. So yes, a lot of effort was involved.
Yeah, that's right. So apart from this, are there any other challenges that you experienced while writing this book, and how did you overcome them?
You tend to have self-doubt, first of all. And I think this is the challenge that every author faces. So, and literally I had to overcome this fear every single day when I was actually, when I went to a publisher, and see, blogging is easy. You can write whatever you want and post it. But the moment you go to a publisher with an idea and then they accept it and then they give you a deadline that you need to finish it. And so my deadline was about 4 to 5 weeks, I think, in which I need to completely rewrite all my content, put it in a book format, come up with a template. All the different sections that you see in the chapter, I had to come up with, creatively. So when you do that and when you start writing, there is this self-doubt that you get. Is this worth writing? Who's going to buy? Who will read it? People already know what I'm talking about. So all these fears keep hitting you, and it happened to me every single day when I start writing. So on an average, I was writing about 5 to 6 hours in a day, and taking breaks, and then I was reading what I wrote about for another 2-3 hours to review, make edits, see if I had to rewrite something. So it was on a daily basis, it was close to 10 to 12 hours of writing, reading the work on a 5-week period non-stop. So it was pretty intense. So one was this self-doubt. Second was having the discipline not to give up. I had to prepare my own project plan and stick to it, avoid distractions, and have my complete attention. So these were challenges, and then of course you don't operate in space. You get distractions by design. You have priorities. People have expectations on you. So all these things were there, but then I could stay focused and complete it.
That's really great, sir. Kudos to your efforts. And I think apart from these challenges, maybe collaborating your thoughts would have been also a little challenging. That is what I feel, maybe. So I'm just curious to know in what way you managed to collaborate your thoughts while writing this book.
Collaborating with others in general did not happen in the sense for the content. Didn't have to collaborate with anyone since the ideas were mine. So I was in control of the content. The challenge was to correct. So the challenge was to communicate it. So for example, there is a foreword given by Mr. Harish Bhatt. He is the brand custodian of Tata Group. And then I have received advanced praise from several people, which is published in the book. So the challenge was to connect with all these distinguished SMEs in the industry, explain to them what I'm doing, convince them that they should read parts of the book, if not all of the book, and then share their endorsement ahead of the publication. So that was a really challenging thing, because you have to persist, and people are busy, and when you're talking about subject matter experts and people in senior roles, they are busier than others. So it was not easy. So that those interactions consumed some time, persistence, and not giving up, communicating to them in a way that they could appreciate what I was saying, and then getting convinced enough to come out and share an endorsement. So that was, of course, difficult. I agree.
Yeah. Awesome, sir. But finally, you made it happen. That's
Correct.
great. Yeah. Okay. So can you give us some insight about your future work?
I have not planned anything immediately. Of course, like I always do. So it is reflecting on things that happen around me is a habit. So I keep taking notes of what is going on, and then this eventually becomes the content of the next book. Whenever it happens. But I'm not working on anything in a focused manner, I should say. I've not put a frame around saying that this is the next book I'm going to write. I've not done that yet. But I'm also exploring other hobbies, which is extremely important. This is one thing I would like to humbly share with all of your listeners, that having a hobby, a passion that can give you happiness. If that is work, if, for example, you are a painter and you are a professional painter and then you gain happiness out of it, then nothing like it. But not all of us are blessed with having the passion and profession together. Sometimes we have to find it like you are doing it with your podcast. So I always try to indulge myself into something that gives me happiness. So writing, of course, is one. And recently, about a few months ago, I also started learning music. This was my childhood passion, which I could never do. But then now I have mustered enough courage to take the leap of faith for myself, and I've started learning the Hindustani flute. So I have a teacher based out of India, and I take virtual lessons. So that's the work that is ongoing apart from work.
We look forward for more such things from you, sir. Maybe a videos as such.
Oh, sure. It is going to take time. I'm very, very early days. But yeah, why not?
Yeah. Okay. So lastly, sir, before we wind up this concept, just one message for our listeners with respect to your book, The Conscientious Manager, and also let us know where it is available to buy.
It is available on Amazon, of course, Amazon India, or in whichever country you are. So it is globally available, and also in some of the local websites in the country. So yeah, so that is the way to get it. See, the one message from the book is having fun is important, and the realization that you cannot have fun in silos. You cannot have fun, you cannot be happy if people around you are sad. Uh, so, which by definition is the very spirit of being conscientious. So, somebody who is happy usually is between people who are happy around him, or who's trying to influence that happiness onto others. So, having fun is important. And if you believe that in the role that you are in the current context that you are in, you are unable to experience that joy, there's nothing wrong in trying other things and moving on, but doing so in a way that it does not impact the rest of the team. So there is this whole aspect of attrition that we see, people moving around and all that. Leaving is not a bad thing by itself, but it should be like, I give this example. When you launch a rocket into space, uh, some of the parts the rocket leaves behind and goes out, right? So you should be like that part which disconnect itself to push the rest of the rocket ahead. It should not be like the top part which is kicking the rest of the things and going ahead. So you need to place the right perspective, and even when your decision is to leave a place, it should be done in a way that it does not harm others as much as you can manage. But very important to have fun and enjoy. And the conscientious manager, what I have described there, the principles or behaviors that are given, all of these, I'm sure, will help you gain a perspective for yourself. And also, several people have told me that they have got confidence that what they are believing in is true when they read the book. So you will also get that feeling that, yes, this is what I was thinking. Thankfully, somebody has put it in a book. Now I can be sure that I was not wrong, and I can continue to follow what I was doing. So that's what it is, Giri. Long message, not short.
Yes, that's fine, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for that amazing message. All right, now it's time for us to move on to the next segment, that is the rapid fire round. Let me tell you, sir, that this is just a fun segment. There's no logic involved. You will have questions with two choices. You can select either of them, both, or none. The idea is to end the episode with smiles. So, are you ready?
Hopefully, agree. Let's see.
Great. Okay, sir. My first question to you in the rapid fire round: leader or manager?
Leader.
Great. Motivation in words or rewards?
Motivation in words or rewards? Actually, none. Motivation should be by example, by action.
That's great. Okay. Work from office or work from home?
Work from home.
I'm not sure if I should ask you.
Oh, for me, work from home. I love it.
Yeah, great. High five, same here. Great. Storyteller or poet?
Poet.
Okay. Book reading or writing?
Writing. I have read
Yeah.
very few books so far.
I have expected the same answer from you.
Yeah.
Okay. A physical handwriting or virtual keyboard typing?
Virtual keyboard typing. I'm trying to practice handwriting now, but it's so difficult. So it's keyboard.
Yeah. Okay. So humorous writing or inspirational writing? I think again I know the answer.
Actually, a bit of both. Uh, Inspiration is the outcome. How you achieve that outcome is with humor and empathy.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Weekdays or weekends?
Weekdays. Weekends are for family.
Okay. Motivating others or being motivated?
Being motivated.
Awesome. Okay. So my last question to you, sir, in the rapid fire round, my most favorite one. Let's see what you're going to say.
Sure.
Giridhar or funny?
Giridhar. Giridhar. On this podcast, it is Giridhar alone. Without any doubt.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for not only choosing me, but also for being with us on this podcast today. You have provided so many valuable insights from your book, and I'm sure this would have inspired most of our listeners to read the book.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Giri, for having me on the podcast and giving me an opportunity to speak. And I hope some of your listeners find it useful. And if possible, we'll find other opportunities to connect again. And keep doing this great work and continue on your hobby. I would like to see this become the most listened podcast ever. So have a great ambition.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your best wishes. And thank you so much for your valuable time and efforts today for being with us on this show again.
No problem. All the best, Giri.
Yeah. All right. So that's the end of today's episode, listeners. I'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you.